Hey guys, so welcome back to another tier list of video, this time on the Urban Nightmare level for Library of Ruina, and we are just gonna get started. I will, if you want to watch the other levels, I have done levels from Canard all the way up to Urban Plague so far. If you want to see those videos, I do have the playlist in the descriptions below. We are gonna get started with Bamboo-Handed Kim. This is where you start to get all these great key pages. At this level, I think most of these yellow key pages or object dart key pages are incredibly good. They're very good. Some of the purple ones, what are the purple ones called again? I can just check. Limited key pages and object art. I'm just gonna refer to them as gold and purple just to make things easier. So Bamboo-Handed Kim, one of the greatest key pages that you can get and that you should be using for middle to late game. Obviously late game for it's extremely the end game content, you're not gonna be using this page, but you can definitely use this in some of the start of the city fights, maybe the beginning of the start of the city fights until you get some of the start of the city key pages. Bamboo-Handed Kim is very good. He has the speed 1 singular strike. That's the one that when using a combat page with one non-counter die, the die gains +2 power and they use twice as many emotion points in a clash. This negates the emotion deduction that you would get from just clashing once. Normally you would only get either one negative emotion point or one positive emotion point depending on whether you win or lose the clash, but in this case you would get 2, and or roll a maximum and you also get and you also win the clash. I think you would get 4. That's my guess. Anyways, that is that, and that is why you should be using only combat pages that have one singular die, one singular attack, and you abuse this passive office. Oh yeah, he has slash dice power +2, extremely good. Just instead of, on top of having the singular strike, you should build slash combat pages that have one singular slash die. That's your goal at least, but don't think there are that many combat pages that have. I can check right now, so that is a more round option of evaluating the individual key pages. Okay, so from what I'm inserting here, there are a bunch of the key pages just from Eugene, but the Yield My Flesh that you get as a specialty combat page for Bamboo-Handed Kim, that's obviously include. And then there is some zero costs. I'm not gonna go over those. Extreme Edge is a slash key page that's really good. Fierce Charge from Philip. Once you beat the Philip fight, Fierce Charge, that's great as well. Other than those, there aren't anything else that have only one die, and that die has to be slash. So that's only those 3 that can be actually useful, can be good. Obviously, there are other ones. Once you get to the start of the city, you probably won't be using the Bamboo-Handed Kim, so it's kind of obsolete. But I think it's possible to use him. If you're struggling with coming up with teams, sometimes you need 2 to even 3 floors, and coming up with 3 floors, 15 different key pages, then it's a little bit, sometimes it's just a little bit too narrow of a choice, and then you might want to put Kim in just for that extra guaranteed, like, it's something good, like, that it is good. So obviously Kim will go on to S tier, and Kim's friends, passive upon a successful slash attack, inflict 1 bleed. Probably put it on D tier, like it's not, you don't use it ever. Alright, next up, Dante and 7 association fixers page. Because Dante is weak to pierce, and at this point, you're trying to not use any pages that have weak resistances. So any key page that has a resistance that is weak, like you're just hesitating to use it because you know that the enemy might take advantage of it, and then if they're staggered, they would probably just die. So while Dante is good, his passives, when attacking a target with a damage type they're weak or fatal to deal +1 damage. But at this point, you won't find many enemies that have weak resistances. At this point of the game, like Urban Nightmare is like the later half of the game almost. I think the halfway mark it's probably LT, and then after LT, Dante is kind of a page that's supposed to be almost before that point. It's like he probably belongs to Urban Plague, but it's just not that good. But his passive information assessment at the end of the scene, a random enemy's resistance to a random damage type changes to normal for the scene chosen from resistances that are injured or normal. So that is good. I think most of the enemies would have 1 resistance that is injured, but this only works on 1 enemy and doesn't if there are 5 or 4 enemies on the other side. You're only changing it for 1 of them. It would help, but it's worse for passive attribution points, like because you're building the team based on every single fight. You might tweak your team a little bit if you're losing the fight. Maybe this information assessment might help you. And his last passive is if the character attacked an enemy last seen with a damage type they're weak to, and the enemy has 5 or more attacks of fragile at the end of the scene, their resistance against the type becomes fatal for the rest of the act. This requirement is too much. There's too much requirement here, so this passive not really useful. In a practical way, the information assessment is very good. Can be used to change the enemy's resistance from injured to normal, and sometimes that can be really helpful. Alright, so the association fixers page, when attacking a target with a damage type they're weak to or fatal to, deal +1 damage. Not really useful. Alright, moving on. Now we have finished the general receptions. We're moving on to the actual fights. Now, the sweepers. The sweepers gave me such a hard time that I actually was so elated when I beat them, and then I started to use their page, and they're actually very good pages because when you use them, their mind hauler and health hauler passives are insane. They're actually really good. All 3 of these are extremely good, but I don't think they're necessarily S tier. But because Lila is only a health hauler provider, I will put Lila on the in the beginning. Anton and Valerie, I think they're the same, right? Anton and Valerie. Yep. So Mind Holler, recover two standard resist on a successful attack. So this it doesn't mean that you have to clash. You can do one-sided attacks and it would still work. Instead of saying on a clash win, it says on a successful attack. So this would also include the one-sided attacks. I'm not sure, maybe even mass attacks? At this point, yeah, you should be thinking about mass attacks. So I think it also works on mass attacks. I'm not sure. Anyways, liquefied flesh, defensive dice power +1, great to have. Corpse cleaner, when another character dies, recover 5% max HP at the end of the scene, max 12. That's not really good, and it's not worth the 6 passive attribution points. You might as well use those attribution points for something better. Overall, the key page is great, and you also get to use the trash disposal combat page that is specifically used for the sweepers. So trash disposal would let you recycle the dice. It says if the natural die rolls a 3, recycle this die up to 6 times. So you can deal a lot of damage, but obviously it depends on the roll. And here I will put this. Is there anything different for the sweepers page? Yeah, no. I will put it here. Actually, it's just useless. Useless. Okay, Noah, I will put it useless. It's just it's kind of just a filler page. Since we have Emma, Noah has to be there, I think. But other than Noah, Emma is great. Emma also has the speed passive, speed 1 passive, high level acrobatics. When using a page whose original cost is 3 or higher, all dice on that page gain +1 power, and blonde dice power +1. So people would suggest that you can use Emma's page for the Ice Queen fight. I mean, it's the go-to if you're struggling to fight against the Ice Queen, but for me, the Ice Queen it wasn't that difficult. Yeah, it just wasn't difficult at all. And other than that, if you're using Emma, why aren't you using the puppets? Maybe like Emma is better than the puppets in some ways, but I think they're essentially the same. And like the puppets and Emma, because they're all blunt damage. I think the puppets would also do blunt stagger damage. We will get there. Next, index. Index, Grace of the Prescript. Each scene boosts the power of a random type of offensive dice by +2. That's actually very good, but it is 6 passive points, 6 attribution points, so it's a little bit high. But the Skin Prescript, at 1 cost of your passive attribution points, draw 1 more page at the start of the act. If you're having some trouble deciding, like having some trouble filling up your passive attributions, just put this in, just as a good thing to have, and then you will run out of pages a little bit slower. I will put this here. Like these are like good. I think I have been using C as like the good passives to have roll. Alright, next we have Smoke. This is the first time that we encounter Smoke, and Smoke is very good. It's so good that you can essentially use these guys' passives all the way to the end game. So we have one, Jin, me, and smiling faces page. Obviously, you would get other better smoke key pages later on, but in order to fill those key pages passive attributions, you can use these guys passives used into those key pages, such as Eileen, such as there is the smoking guy from the general reception, but otherwise you can change any of their key pages to a smoker by just giving them the puffy broom attribution to get them start dealing damage with smoke. I think these three, their passives are some are better, some are worse. So we have Wan, Jin, and me. Wang, we have the difference between them is if the character has smoke, boost dagger damage dealt with attacks by smoke times 10%. So that's pretty good, very reliable. Smoke addiction, on a successful hit, if the target had 8 or more stacks of smoke, you inflict 2 paralysis next scene. Very nice to inflict paralysis, but this requires the target to have 8 or more stacks. Since 8 stacks can be achieved quite easily, like in the later game, later of the receptions, like City, Star of the City, Imperatus, Vitatus, and like even the ensemble fights. But at this point, when you're first starting to build the smoke decks, it's a little bit more difficult to accumulate smoke. But overall, like smoke decks are just like insane. They're just S tier all around. This one though, it's just down here. You can use the passive, but other than that, normally you shouldn't be using green pages. These guys, they all have the speed die, the extra speed die, passive, and then on top of that, they are smoke users, so you can actually use their instead of spending one passive attribution point on the puffy broom to change one of those non-smokers to a smoker, you can just use these three, and then you can use your passive attribution points for something else. Alright, next we have Philip. Now, it's possible to use him. I think it's actually pretty good to use him. But for me, for my playthrough, I didn't quite use him because he's actually quite weak compared to some of the other guys. Like here, these two, compared to those two, he's a little bit weaker, simply because there are like at this point the game doesn't offer you a lot of good burn cards just yet. This is not a Philip page, but Crying Children's page. The thing is, either the Crying Children, the actual Philip's page, they all need good burn cards, and you don't get good burn cards until you get to sell. So or even just the Liu Association. Yeah, until you get to the Liu Association, there aren't that many good burn cards. So the Crying Children page, it's good, but it lacks some good support. You can obviously make a page, but you can make a deck for it, but it's just the pages tend to be weaker, and then you might lose a lot of clashes, and then when I was playing with this page, I found this page always getting staggered first out of everything, out of all of my pages. So that's bad side, I guess, to it. All right, next, puppets. Now, the puppets are also another very good one. Someone on Reddit or someone in the comments for one of my gameplay videos said that the puppets is like a overall good page. They don't specialize in anything. Maybe just blunt damage. If you build blunt damage, just very good. Yeah, and that's exactly correct. They, even though they don't specialize in anything, but for urban nightmare difficulty and obviously some Star of the City fights, you can use the puppets. You can use the puppets passives. So we have concussion on the successful blunt attack, deal 2 bonus dagger damage. Not too good, not too bad. Puppet skeleton, blunt dice damage, blunt dice power +1. Pretty nice. Solidarity. No, I don't have solidarity. No, they don't have solidarity. Okay, so just concussion and puppet skeleton. Those are their passives. For the other puppet page, they have acceleration when speed is 5 or higher, deal +1 stagger damage with attacks. Not very impactful. So this one I will put it here. Maybe the other passive, the puppet skeleton, will be a little bit useful, and this I will put it here. So because you do get 3 maximum, you can get is 3 of these puppet page 2s, and these puppet page 2s gives you the extra speed dice, the concussion, puppet skeleton, and then of course you can use the combat pages that come with the puppet. So pages like, what is that? Repressed flesh, forceful gesture, they're all blunt damage, automated movement. Somehow my game is lagging. Yeah, so those are benefits of the puppet. But the negative thing about the puppets is that they don't specialize in anything. They don't have a thing that they are good at. In Star of the City, you need something that you're really good at, and then you're just using that page for what they are good at, either as a support or either as a good damage dealer, etc, etc. Okay, and now we have the continuation from Warp Train. Rose, Sen, and Lesty. Rose, Sen, Lesty, and the generic page. Overall, at this point, I think this is the first time we do get energy key pages and energy combat pages. Then we can actually build energy decks, or not energy, charge decks. This is the first time that we do unlock the charge decks, but at this point charge decks they're okay. They're good, but they're not as good as smoke decks. As soon as you unlock the smoke decks, you should be starting to focus your efforts on creating smoke decks and then just smoke them out. The charge decks are okay. They're simply okay. They're like any other decks. This point you can only have 10 charge. It's okay. It's just another type of deck. Like burn, you don't have that many combat pages for burn. Bleed, not that many combat pages for bleed. What else is there? maybe a slash bleed deck. You can sort of make that. Discard is trash as well. So ranged, there's also range. Range is trash too. So it's not great. It's we'll put it here in front of Emma simply because I have used rows before, but other than the fact that our charge decks are trash, but the roads page itself is pretty good. The roads page, the passives, they're only, for example, Quantum Leap. If speed is 4 or higher, deal 13 bonus damage on successful hits. On successful hits at a 10% chance. Refraction, they'll deal 13 bonus stagger damage at a 5% chance, and dimensional sections deal 10 bonus damage at a 10% chance. So it's good. You can deal bonus damage, but 10%, 5%, really? It's quite irrelevant if you think about it. Yeah, but you can still build the charge decks, but the charge decks themselves are actually quite strong, the charge pages themselves. Okay, so yeah, so the special combat page that comes with roads, rip space, that's great if you have, but you do need to get 10 charge. Pages like ripple, overcharge is okay. You do lose a turn, but you do get a great turn. That's one turn. Dimensional rift, it's okay for getting charge, and then you do get energy cycle for light generation, and rewind, and and leap for draw. Other than that, you don't get many options for charge, so it's just a starting point. And then we have Lesty and Sen. So for Lesty and Sen, they also have the dimensional sections and refraction. Basically, it's the same passive abilities as Rhodes. But for Lesty, you do get reaction force. If the character did not use any page for a scene, gain 1 strength and endurance next scene. At the later, on the Star of the City, you can use this passive ability for Bayard's page, but at this point, you can use this passive ability and put it on Rose, and you use overcharge. You skip a turn, but after you skip a turn, you get 1 endurance and 1 strength. So there's that benefit to it. So I would say that Lesty, we can put it here. There is we'll put it here. Good passives. This we'll put it here. Actually, for Sen, we'll put it down here, but probably better than these guys. And this we'll put it down here as well. And then finally, we have one final office, and that is the She Association. I mean, this is like probably very good. One of the greatest pages, on par with the Bamboo-Headed Kim, Eugene. So Eugene, it's the first time that you would get speed 2 passive attribution, but the difficulty is, the different thing is that you do get the speed 2, but on the bottom, over breathing / exhaustion, restore 2 light upon using a page whose original cost is 4 or higher, but a speed die becomes unavailable. So even though you get 3 speed die at the start, one of them is unavailable for the whole time. So essentially you're still just getting two speed dice. So yeah, it's good, but and the overbreathing exhaustion, the positive part, you do restore light upon using a page that is 4 or higher, so there's that positive. And then for Eye of Death slash Narration, you do get an extra power on all of your dice. And then you have after an allied dice gain 1 strength and 1 endurance each scene for the rest of the act. Stacks up to 2 times. But you do start the battle with 75% less HP. That is a bad thing, but you can use that to your advantage. There are combat pages like to overcome crisis. HP is at 25% or lower, restore 1 light. It's a really good one. 25%. Let's see, and then there is a endless battle. If HP is at 25% or lower, all dice on this page gain +1 power. You can use that for this kind of thing, or you can use this to your advantage and run a heal build. Floors that you can run healing builds on are Netzash. It's really good for healing people, and I think maybe at this point you are only unlocking maybe you're only unlocking, I think you're only unlocking the bottom 4 floors. So in order to use Eugene, I think Netzash is probably the best bet. Okay, next. The other two are Valentine and Tema. Well, Valentine and Tema, both of them have the speed passive, extra speed, but both of them start the battle at 75% HP, which is a little bit better than Eugene, but Eugene starts off with much higher HP value, and for Tema and Valentine, they start off with lower total HP value. So in the end, they all come out to be around the same value of HP. But comparing Tema with Valentine, Tema has respiration at the start of the scene, restore 1 light if current light is 0. That actually does help with light recovery. And for Valentine, they have singular strike. We have seen a singular strike with bamboo-headed Kim. Yeah, other than that, they're basically the same with each other, and also with the Eugene's page. I mean, I would put these like here, and then this one, it's possible to use it, but I mean, if you're using Valentine here, you might as well use bamboo-headed Kim. Much better everything. Just much better page in total, in like overall, in everything. And then we'll put this here. So that's it for my tier list for the Urban Nightmare tier list. So keep in mind that this is home of my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. Overall, I think I did a pretty good job at evaluating the power level of everything, and some of them are maybe undervalued and some of them are overvalued, but most of them are like pretty on point with what the general thinks, what the general public thinks. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing and liking the video, and I will see you guys tomorrow. For those of you who are watching in the very future, though, I do have a playlist on the right of this video that has all of the tier lists that I have done in the past, so check it out, and I will see you guys there.